There we go. All right. So I just wanted to welcome you, Tina Moss, to our little interview today. Basically, this came about because a lot of my clients and author friends that I know are really curious about the other side of publishing, the editorial side. And so I thought we would just chit chat a little bit today about what you do and City Owl and fun things like that.
Sounds good.
Awesome. So if you could just kind of start by telling us about yourself, what's your background, and what led you to this publishing life?
So it's pretty funny because I actually just put out like a little story time on TikTok about one of the pivotal moments that got me started in wanting to create City Owl Press. But I'll backtrack a little bit. I started in, let's see, I believe it was 2007 in publishing. And that was, in grad school and getting my feet wet and interning and that kind of a thing. And then I spent the next 17 years. Where are we now? What year is it? What day is it? What month is it? I spent the next decade and a half, let's say, in the world of academia and being a professor, being a teacher, and then always doing all of the publishing stuff part-time. I initially started as an author, and I was co-writing with my now business partner, Yelena Casali, and we went down the traditional road of publishing, and that is getting an agent, pitching to what was then the big five or maybe big six at the time, which I think we're down to big four, and hopefully it stays that way. Because hopefully we don't get any smaller. But we got to the acquisitions level. And for those who might be listening and don't know, acquisitions is kind of like the last step in the traditional publishing process before you would sign a contract to actually be with that house. And we got there twice, and we got turned down twice, which anybody who knows is pretty disheartening to get to that final step and then get turned down. Additionally, we had been at that point, let's see, that was 2007 when I started. We got our agent in 2009, and we went through the rigor for a couple of years. So it was 2014 that we finally said, you know what, we've had enough. Let's get off of this roller coaster ride. And something that really inspired us was the rise of self-publishing, which is now under the bigger branch of indie publishing, and the small press. We decided that although we could do the self-publishing route and we considered it, we really wanted to see the bigger picture of, could we create a company that was going to be by authors, for authors, and bring the best quality books to readers. And at that point, we had been in the game long enough where we said, okay, let's do some research and see if we can make this a reality. And it was 18 months of really intensive research, using our own book as a guinea pig kind of for our launch, before we said, you know what, we're going to go ahead and take on other authors and do this. And now that was September, I think, of 2014. And so it's been since then.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And so what about the name City Owl? Like, where did that come from?
It's so funny because we went through a few iterations of what the name could be, but we really wanted it to represent the fact that we're both New York City people, the city that never sleeps, kind of like just like us, because God knows we never sleep either. And the owl is just kind of classic, book trope, reader trope, the wise old owl. And of course, the owl is nocturnal. So we're like, perfect, let's put them together.
Very good. Very good. So just for any of my listeners, my blog readers, tell us what genre, what readership does City Owl represent, and talk maybe about some of the imprints that you have.
Yep. So City Owl is mainly focused on romance and the wide branch of speculative fiction. So speculative fiction would include science fiction, urban fantasy, contemporary fantasy, dark fantasy, kind of that, and anything paranormal, kind of that wider branch. But all of our books have some type of romantic subplot, from, just a little romantic subplot to all the subgenres of romance.
Mhm.
Our audience is primarily women, so we are a mostly geared towards toward women in print, but I feel like that's growing as well. Our readership is growing. For example, at a recent con, my personal books sold the best to men, and that really surprised me,
Mhm.
which has been changing the way that we've been doing some of our marketing. It's not a two gender system, so we
Yeah.
have the non-binary as well. So our readership has definitely, I feel like, grown with us.
Mhm.
But we do the primarily is that traditional genres of romance. Our Mystic Owl line, which we just launched last year, has consumable reads. I used to say quick reads, and Heather McCorkle is the head of that line. She's like, I don't know what quick read sounds. Can you say consumable reads? So I'm practicing saying consumable reads now, but they are all under 75,000 words. They're
Mhm.
on the quicker side, the shorter side, and they're really meant to be something that you can consume in one sitting. And they focus on pretty spicy. So they're all of the fantasy genres of romance, sci-fi again, paranormal genres, but they are on the spicy side.
Awesome. All right. And so what is your role specifically? Tell us about, are you the owner? What do you do?
I'm the jack of all trades, master of none. No, I'm the chief operating officer. So that's the COO. I run the day-to-day of the company. I'm also the co-owner, along with Yelena Casali, who is the chief marketing officer. We decided very quickly that we needed somebody who was going to step in full time. We knew that pretty much within 3 years of the company launching.
Mhm.
I just couldn't do that until last year. So last year I went full time with the company, and I am in charge of all daily operations, which, I mean, I could give you the to-do list. It's about 3 miles long. My assistant is my right hand and like the right half of my brain as well. So she's
Mhm.
fantastic. But yeah, between the two of us, and then of course the senior staff and the editorial team, we are all hitting the ground running, so to speak.
Well, that's fantastic. And do you take both agented and unagented submissions?
We do. Actually, our agent list has grown quite substantially, I would say, in the past 2 years, since COVID really hit. We had worked with agents before that, but then I think since COVID, we've just had this kind of influx exponentially of agented submissions as well as unagented, but you can pitch us either way.
Okay, great. So I wanted just to kind of switch gears a little bit into the editing process, because that's what my readers, they ask me all the time, what happens when, right?
Sure.
And so after a query or a proposal is sent your way, can you describe that process? What kind of a path does it take?
Yeah, absolutely. So a query will go to one of our specific editors, right? So we have, I don't even know how many editors at this point. Let's say 10. So we'll do a round number of 10. And any given number of editors are going to be open or closed to queries at that time. I believe actually we only have one editor who's currently open at the moment. But once a query goes to their inbox, they're looking through what's known as the slush pile. Do we still call it that?
I do.
Okay, that's just checking, because sometimes I'm outdated with words. It goes to what's called the slush pile, meaning that you kind of like cold queried us. If you have an agent, then the agent will send it directly, so you're kind of out of that pile. But regardless, it's going to get read, I promise. It's just a matter of how quickly it will.
Mhm.
If the agent at that point looks at the query and says, oh, wow, I want to read more, then they will get in touch with the author and ask for either a partial, which could be anything from 1 to 3 chapters, or a full manuscript to read. After they've read the partial, hopefully they'll ask for the full. And if they've gone straight to the full and they love it, they're going to then give it to our acquisitions team, which means we're going to look at the package that they put together. So essentially the editor will have to pitch the acquisitions team this book that they want to take on. So it will be everything from the comp titles, meaning which books are your books like in the market? Who do we see it selling to, the demographics of the audience selling to? what is the query and what genre is it, and where does it fall within our catalog. So basically, depending on what we're publishing at any given time, let's say you have a fantastic fantasy romance, right? But we don't have room in our catalog at the moment. We might say, okay, we want to take this on, but we don't have a spot until X amount of days or years, depending, quite frankly, how full we are. So everybody will look at it and give their opinion and give a yes or a no. Majority rules, so you don't have to have necessarily unanimous decision, although to be quite frank, it's very rare that we are not all in sync, because usually once you get to that stage, we're talking about a high level of book that's coming and everybody's really excited about it. So we're usually all yeses, but again, majority rules. And once we give the yeses to that editor, the editor will put together an offer letter. The offer letter goes to the author or the author's agent, and then it's contract time, which is super exciting. We negotiate the contract with the author or their agent to get the specific terms down, sign the contract, and then it's off to the editorial races. So do you want me to go into that too once you're signed on?
Yeah, that was my next question. Once it's accepted, what happens?
Yeah. So now you're signed. So you're a part of the City Owl team, and you're going to get a welcome email from me. You're going to join our Facebook groups. We have a couple different groups, some that are just for our authors, some that are for our authors and our staff together, and then some that's just for our readers. So you'll get invited to all of those. Mystic Owl, our imprint, also has their own group, and you'll kind of connect with everybody and meet the team and see who does what where. And then from an editorial standpoint, you go on the acquiring editor's calendar. So each editor has their own calendar of things that they edit, so their books. Once you have a spot within their calendar, they'll let you know, okay, let's say it's August now, and we've just signed you on, but there's not a spot in your editor's calendar until April, which means you actually won't get started with edits until April. And that's pretty normal. That's pretty typical for a signing. That's actually kind of fast. It might be longer than that. Actually, I don't want to promise anybody anything, but we do try to get books to market within 13 months of signing. We can't always do it because some of our editors are very, very full. So if you wanted to work, for example, T. Tate is one of our editors who's booked up until 2024 at this point. So depending on who you're working with, is how kind of fast you get onto their calendar and how much space they have. So you're on the calendar now. April rolls around and you're rocking with content edits with your editor. Once that's usually 2 rounds of developmental edits. Once your developmental edits are finished, you go on to the copy editing calendar for copy editing, which is usually 1 round. And then when everything is kind of done, proofed, ready to go, it goes on to the formatting calendar.
Lots of calendars.
Lots of calendars. There are many, many calendars, but each one is for a different part of the process, which is typical to publishing. You're going to get your marketing plan, what's happening with trade reviews. So a lot of things are happening while the editorial side is happening. There's a whole marketing and distribution side as well. But from a strictly editorial standpoint, that's kind of the breakdown. You do developmental edits, copy edits, then you go to formatting and your final files where you say, okay, this all looks good, except there's one little thing here. Can you go fix that kind of an issue? That's the final checks before it goes to distribution.
And as far as what people see, the cover, the size of the book, is any of that within the grasp of the author? Do they have any say in that? How do you deal with that?
Yeah.
Owl?
Covers for sure. Covers, we're really actually proud of how much input the author does have. We always say your book has to be on trend for your genre. So for example, if you're in a steamy contemporary romance, chances are you're going to have the man chest cover. Now, I know that some people do not like them. I personally am a fan, but everybody has their preferences. But so it's really important that we have those conversations like, hey, I know you want this really fancy object cover, which are actually very popular right now in fantasy romance, but it has to be current to what the market demands. So within the market parameters, the author then has a ton of say on their cover.
Mhm.
So they get a cover art form right in the beginning. And then that kind of lays out, okay, what do your characters look like? What are any special objects or fonts or things or color schemes that are important to you? And then what comp titles do you really like? Like, I really love XYZ's cover. This would be awesome if I could have something like that. And that gives us kind of a direction to go in. Then once we send that off to the art team comes back with the first draft of the cover, which goes to the author. And if the author has an agent, also their agent. And they get to give all their input and feedback on the cover. And we go back and forth with the art team until we have something that everybody's happy with.
Very cool.
So from that perspective, covers, yes. The sizing, not so much, because our typical size for Mystic Owl is 5.5 by 8.5. And for the main line is 6 by 9. Okay. If the book is really short, we will scooch down the covers, but those are kind of standard trade paperback sizes.
Gotcha. All right. So do you have a favorite part of that process? Like, from the
end? No, when it's out in the market.
Like, do you enjoy one of the parts of the process more than the others?
I really personally like formatting, because we have our Vellum software program that we use, which I always sing the praises of, because it's a really good program, and I personally like doing formatting. I haven't let anybody else do formatting yet. That's one of my A-type personality things that I just have not been able to outsource yet. Like, a lot of things I let, I'm like, go do this, but formatting is one of the things that I enjoy. And then distribution, like really seeing the book out there, is probably my favorite part. Like, when we get to the end and everybody's worked so hard and the book's finally out in the market.
Fantastic. Very, very cool. All right. As far as, let's see, I think I asked that already, but is there anything specific that you would like to see come through City Owl that you haven't seen? Or, I guess what's on your wish list as a company?
Yeah, that's a good question. So each editor, we kind of let them do their thing in terms of their wish lists, because we have such a wide variety of genres that we do publish. It's really dependent on, again, what our catalogs look like and what our editors are wanting to acquire. I would say that fantasy romance right now is extremely popular, so we're seeing a good amount of that. I would love to see more LGBTQ plus titles in our catalog. We do have some, but I would like to see more. It's also very important to us that we do not shelve those titles separately. So there is nowhere on our site that you're going to see LGBTQ titles, because we believe that they deserve proper placement along every other title and not make them different or other. But you can search for them with the tags in case that's something you're specifically looking for. And I would really like to see more of them come our way.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I just had a few fun questions. These have nothing really to do with editing, publishing, or whatever.
That's okay.
Maybe one of them does. I call them the Fast Five faves, right? So I just want to get to know my people. So what's your favorite color?
Green.
Green. Do you have a favorite musician, band, genre of music?
Oh, I'm gonna get flack for this, I know it, but I love Nickelback. I don't know why they get so much hate. I love them. I love Bon Jovi. I'm old school Metallica. Awesome. But yeah, I'm a huge Nickelback.
Right. Speaking of Bon Jovi, little known fact, the school that I went to for high school, nowhere near New Jersey. But when I was in 9th grade, Bon Jovi actually came to our school and did an anti-drug talk, if you can imagine.
That's wild.
1986.
That's amazing.
I don't know how we were picked for it. I don't know how we were picked for it up here. I live in the middle of nowhere.
Oh, that's so cool. I love it. That's awesome.
It's a good memory. Favorite place to visit?
Japan.
Wow.
I've lived there. Japan? Yeah.
Wow.
I lived there years ago. I used to teach English there, and I've backpacked the countryside twice, and I'm dying to go back again.
Awesome. Favorite food or beverage?
Favorite food or beverage? Ooh, that's a tough one. I am I am not what's the opposite of a food snob? I am a person who just like loves all food. So-
Eclectic taste.
eclectic taste. We'll go with that. I do love Tex-Mex. That's probably my favorite type,
Mhm.
but yeah, I could eat anything.
Awesome. And I know that, you're in a world of books and authors, but do you have a favorite of your lifetime?
It's probably gonna be Lord of the Rings because
Mhm.
I do a full reading every couple of years, and every time I read it, I discover something new. And even though Tolkien was wordy as heck, it still gets my heart. So it's got to be that.
Well, that's fantastic. Very, very awesome. Well, it was really nice to chat and thank you for letting me record today.
Yeah.
Once I put this together sometime in the next few weeks, I'll put it up on my blog, and of course I'll link you in, and so you can see it, share it, whatever you would like to do. I have your Twitter. I
Mhm.
have a website for you, but if
Awesome.
you want to send along any other links, and if you have any pictures, you're welcome to send
Sure.
those along too, and I'll include them.
Oh, thank you. And if your listeners or readers have any other questions, I'm happy to jump on the blog and answer any of those as well.
Sounds good. Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much. This was fun.
Thanks. Thank you for having me. It was
Yeah.
awesome.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.